Your relationship with your dog and how they respond to you is a result of every single interaction you previously had with them. And of those interactions, it's highly likely that they revolve around food, freedom, and affection. These three things, these three tools are really important, but you need to know how to use them properly to maximize their potential. We've already covered the power of food in a previous video, so if you missed that, please go back and check it out. Before we go any further, let's explain what we mean by the word freedom and how it relates to your dog. Freedom in a home environment means access to territory, space, your sofa, the kitchen, etc. It's basically where your dog can and can't go. It also covers your dog's ability to access you. This is super important and we'll explain that later. Outside your home on walks, freedom essentially means whether your dog is on leash or off leash, how far they are away from you, or what they're doing. At this point, you might be thinking, well, John, I already do a good job of controlling my dog's freedoms, managing them. I do it every day to keep them safe, to keep my house clean and my neighbors happy. And yes, I know, but shutting doors, putting up gates, dragging your dog in from the garden, these are all physical forms of control. The key to using freedom as a tool with your dog to build and strengthen your relationship with it is to do as much as possible using mental, invisible boundaries rather than physical ones. By the way, I'm not saying get rid of all these physical barriers. Physical barriers work when we're not around to supervise our dogs, so please leave your garden fence up. However, when we are with our dogs, it's critical that the control we have is created through our relationship rather than a physical barrier or a piece of equipment. The following top tips will create invisible boundaries that will develop into very real and positive changes in your dog's overall behavior. Top tip number one, and it is a very long top tip. We would strongly recommend that you limit the access your dog has to you or the attention it receives from you. This is really important with puppies for so many reasons. I know for some people this concept may seem harsh. Some people might even be horrified by it. Look, we're not the fun police and we're not for 1 minute suggesting that your dog needs to be on a strict diet of 2 pats on the head and a hug each day. What we are saying is that your dog will value you more, be more responsive to you if your attention isn't always readily available. Employ some reverse psychology here. Ignore some of your dog's demands for attention and try and make sure that any physical interaction, fuss, tactile, hugging, etc. is pretty much initiated by you. Creating more value in yourself to your dog is going to help in lots of different aspects of your dog's life, especially recall or separation anxiety, and that leads nicely into top tip number 2. Bed training will allow you, without physical barriers, to limit access to yourself, which increases your value, and it also teaches your dog to cope emotionally without you as a crutch all the time. Going to and staying on a bed should be one of the first things you teach your dog, and once they understand it, you should blend it into part of your dog's daily routine. Bed or place training is a really useful, practical tool which by default creates emotional control that you can use in lots of different situations. Really important to note that emotional control isn't something dogs are born with, it's something that they need to learn. Bed training is also a vital component in resolving or avoiding separation anxiety in dogs, and in top tip number 3, we'll be explaining how. Separation anxiety is when a dog has become so dependent on a person that they become emotionally distressed when that person leaves them. Dogs that suffer with separation anxiety tend to be a bit like Velcro, very clingy with their owners following them everywhere in the home. And look, the secret to resolving that separation anxiety isn't leaving the dog on their own for periods of time. Actually, the way to resolve it is to take away the dog's ability without physical barriers to follow their owner everywhere all the time. The dog can be frustrated by a physical barrier, a door or a gate. Bed training actually teaches the dog emotional control. This is also true of dogs that struggle to switch off or relax. We can use a crate, a physical barrier, to promote or achieve this, but it's far better if the dog learns to control their emotions mentally rather than physically. Top tip number 4, recall. There is a school of thought that says that you need to make yourself more interesting, more attractive than the environment around your dog so that you can recall your dog. Have you ever heard the phrase, sexier than a squirrel? Recall is always going to be easier if we have a resource that the dog really wants, such as a toy or food. But the biggest resource should be you. It's really important for you as an owner to appreciate what it's like to be valuable to your dog. And if I'm honest, how to achieve that. Of course, we're not suggesting that you ignore your dog every day or any day, but rather you understand a different way to influence your dog's behavior. Top tip number 5, teach your dog to walk next to you, to stay with you before you give it freedom of the park. Too many people simply take their dog off the lead, essentially giving it total freedom, and then spend the rest of the dog's life trying to limit that freedom. What we want you to do is start with the opposite mindset. Grant your dog small freedoms, teaching your dog to walk next to you off lead for short periods of time or distance. Freedom is off leash, not the whole park. Vary and train this until your dog will stay with you for longer periods on walks. This is all about teaching your dog pattern of behavior, a muscle memory of staying next to you. Once you've achieved and can control this, you can grant your dog more freedom. You can encourage it to go for a sniff or go to the toilet, and then recall it to walk back next to you. Over a period of time, your dog's behavior and self-control will develop to a point which enables you to grant your dog more freedom, but safe in the knowledge that you can control that freedom. Top tip number 6, social space. It's your sofa. And if you want to cuddle your dog on it, then do whatever brings you happiness. Just remember though, time spent on there should be invitational for your dog rather than by right. Dogs understand and value territory. Your sofa is territory. Collecting space can be linked to social status with dogs, and if you give your territory away, then you're giving away part of your status, and you're giving away any reason a dog would follow you. Using freedom as a training tool can be quite difficult to understand, so we hope you found this video informative. If you enjoyed it, we'd appreciate a like, and as usual, please subscribe with notifications turned on if you don't want to miss out on future videos.